Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooke Tannehill and today we are getting festive yet again with this Christmas Ombre Mug Tumbler. I had a lot of fun creating a mug for Christmas with a little different color scheme that allows me to incorporate pink into the most wonderful time of the year. Who says everything has to be red and green anyway? Just kidding. As always, all of the products I use will be listed in the description below, and you may even find a coupon code or two that saves you some coin. Also, come join our exclusive Facebook group where you can take advantage of upcoming freebies and giveaways that you aren't going to want to miss. So without further hesitation, let's go ahead and get started. For this tutorial, I started with a fully prepped and sanded 25 ounce with handle fatty from Parish Tumblers, spray painted it white, let that dry, then taped off the handle and did an ombre with Ocean Mist and Dreamy Lavender from Rust-Oleum 2X paint. Let that dry, and then I came in with my heat gun and just kind of did a brief, just quick run about the cup just to heat it up. And I did this not only to let the paint fully dry, but also because we're going to be doing an ombre with our glitters, warming the cup up for just like a quick minute allows the epoxy just to glide on so much easier, and I feel like I get a better, more even coat on my tumbler. For the epoxy method, I always make sure to mix up at least 10 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy, so that way I can just make sure that my epoxy is thoroughly mixed and I have a really great coat of adhesive for my glitter to stick on. So I'm just taking my time, making sure I just have the littlest amount possible for my glitter to stick to, but not too much to prevent any kind of pooling with the glitter. And pretty much what pooling looks like is when you just have different colorations of the glitter because it's being absorbed into the epoxy. For the pinky purple color that you see here, I chose Sugar Plum from Bougie Glitter Boutique. And what I'm doing is I am focusing on the bottom rim of the cup to just use as a guide to let my glitter start to cascade down the purple section of the cup into the green. So I'm holding the shaker probably about 12 inches up above the cup and I'm just letting the shaker really focus on that bottom rim, and you'll see that the glitter starts to cascade down and slightly go into the green section of the cup. Granted, with the handle, you saw that I did have to hold it at a different angle just to make sure that I got the full coverage of the purple color, but I'm just sprinkling ever so lightly and turning the cup to get some really good groundwork laid for the start of my ombre. Once I'm happy with the first glitter with the purple, I'm gonna grab Misty Mint from Bougie Glitter Boutiques, and I'm gonna start the same process but at the top of the cup. Holding the shaker probably about 10 to 12 inches above the cup, focusing on that top rim and just letting the green just cascade down that top portion of the cup and slightly go into the purple that we laid down with the Sugar Plum. I'm going to continue just lightly sprinkling the green glitter, which is that Misty Mint color, into the purple. And what you'll see is that the paint job that we did with the ombre before this is really helping to blend the colors of our glitter even better, so that you have to do less back and forth with the two different glitter colors, and it just makes the transition that much prettier and easier to accomplish. So one thing I did right here is I just came in with a little bit more of that light green just to go over the transition just the slightest bit to really make sure that I got the coverage and the blend that I want. Please feel free to go back and forth as much as you want to get that perfect blend, because it's going to make the overall beauty of the cup that much better. Once I let that dry for about 4 hours, I removed the painter's tape from the handle, and then it was time to glitter the handle. So again, I mixed up at least 10 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did to the rest of the cup on the handle, but just taking a little more precautions. So the reason why I say you want to take a few more precautions is because your fingers and your gloves have epoxy all over them. And the last thing you want to do is take a chance of getting that epoxy up on the glitter that you already laid down to where you have contamination of the glitter you're using on the handle on the body of the mug. So what I have here is I just have a little silicone tip brush, and I'm taking the epoxy and just pushing it up to the edge of the handle and where it meets the body of the mug. What this does is it allows me to get great coverage with the glitter that I'm using on the mug, but not run the chance of getting any epoxy on the mug itself and having the chunkier mix that we're going to apply stick to the body and just kind of ruin the whole aesthetic that we're going towards. Once we have the handle good and covered with epoxy, it's time to glitter the handle. For the handle, I chose Golden Rose from Bougie Glitter Boutique, and the reason why I did this is because it has a lot of those purple undertones that you saw with the sugar plum, but also a green kind of shift to it that really matches the Misty Mint that we used. So I absolutely love this color. It's a little bit darker hue than the sugar plum, but the green just really, really goes well with the Misty Mint. Once I had the glitter applied, I dry brushed off any excess glitter, then I let that dry for about 4 hours and spray sealed this twice with Rust-Oleum Clear Gloss Spray Paint. Once that was done and dried, I applied 2 coats of 20 milliliters each of a little extra ink epoxy, let that dry, and that brings us to our next step. I wanted to take a minute and show you guys how I clean the rims of my tumblers. And what I do is I just take a Dremel tool and a 120 grit flap wheel, and I just slowly make my way around the cup to expose just a tiny bit of stainless steel for my next layer of epoxy to adhere to. Nothing that takes away to the overall look of the cup, but just an added step that makes sure that you have a high quality product for months to come. So just take my time, make sure I have an even line around the cup, and then it is time to move into the rest of our sanding. Now it's time to sand the rest of the cup. So I grabbed my 120 grit sanding block, and what I like to do is after I use my Dremel is just come through and take my sanding block and just soften some of the edges that could have appeared from the Dremel tool. I usually just do this pretty quickly, just a light sand, and then what I like to do is just feel around the cup for any rough edges and just sand them off. Since we used a chunkier glitter on the handle, you want to make sure to sand it as smoothly as possible, because that's going to allow you to need less coats of epoxy and for your more coats of epoxy to go on smoother as you move throughout the design of the cup. So just take your time, move around the entire cup. Don't worry, you have 2 coats of epoxy to protect all of your glitter. And I really find that this step has a huge impact on the overall just look and how nicely your cups come out. Now it's time for the decal, and I did not do a coat of epoxy from our sanding till this because we are just going to be applying vinyl bases for everything. If you were to go straight into a water slide, you would need a coat of epoxy before this step, but what I decided to do for the water slide we are using is to lay down a white vinyl base to really make those colors pop. I printed these off on Hippo water slide paper, sealed them 3 times with Krylon triple thick glaze, let them dry, and now I'm putting them into a bowl of kind of warm water to really saturate the water slide. And one thing I want to show you is that the way you know your water slide's ready is it shrinks up, it curls up, then when it starts to unveil, that's when you know it's time to apply your decal. So all I'm doing is I made sure to cut the decal and print the decal at the same size. I chose 3 inches wide, and you'll see that the water slide lays perfectly over the white vinyl, and you can really see how nicely it turned out. When applying water slides, it's always good to have the silicone brush that you can see over there in the corner, and also a paper towel just to make sure that you're smoothing out the water slide and patting off any excess water to get a nice smooth surface. So there you can kind of see a little preview of what it's going to look like. I let that dry for about 45 minutes, and then it was time to move into the rest of the vinyl work. So I cut out a bunch of different snowflakes, and the links for all of these files will be in the CamiPaige VIP group, and you can just download them from there. But I cut both snowflakes, stars, and just some dots with both textured, like the silver textured vinyl from Cricut, and then also just white 651 from Oracal, and place them strategically around the cup. So there's no rhyme or reason to how I laid them out, so please feel free to lay them out the way the design appeals to you. But I just thought that these were nice little added details that really set off this design. So here you can see that I start to apply some of the little white stars and the dots that I think really complement both kind of aspects of the water slide that we applied. So just take your time, apply all the little decals and vinyl cutouts that your heart desires to get the desired look that you're looking for your mug. One thing I like to call out is don't forget the back, because you're going to see the back of your mugs sometimes just as much as the front. So I really liked placing some larger snowflakes on the back side of the mug to really kind of continue the design and just add a couple of little nice details. So just take your time, have fun with it. There's no right or wrong. And then it was time to apply the offset to the water slide. Since I have a water slide that has been attached to the cup, but it doesn't have a coat of epoxy, I opted not to use transfer tape to apply it. So what I did is I just lined up the edge of the vinyl, and I used some of the vinyl backing from the decal itself to just put the circle on so that I could line it up but not attach the whole thing, and then just slowly pull out the backing to apply the rest of the decal. And you can see just how beautiful that actually did come out. And then one extra little detail I wanted to show you. My favorite thing about these mugs is the flat handle. And I thought it would be super cute to put ho 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 down the handle just for a little added detail that I thought was kind of cute and whimsical. So again, you could do this with transfer tape. I just opted to do it with my X-Acto knife because I thought it would be easier, especially because the textured vinyl from Cricut can be a little hard to get to attach to your transfer tape. So you just simply lift them up with the craft knife and apply them. But then I also wanted to show you that it can be done with transfer tape if you so choose. So ho 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 down the handle. You could obviously do anything, but that's one of the best things about these mugs from Parish. With all the vinyl work that we did and the intricacies with the different decals that we added, I highly recommend sealing your cup with a polyurethane sealer. The one I'm using is Quick Coat from CC DIY, but just make sure to apply a thin coat to the whole cup. And it just makes it so much easier and prevents you from having to apply a lot more epoxy and your decals lifting and then wondering what to do. Let that dry for about 45 minutes, and then it's time to apply the epoxy to the handle. So I like to start with the handle just to make sure that I have a nice, even, thin coat and no pooling at the base of the tumbler. And then I move into the rest of the body that you see here. Now, with any handled mug, there are some just additional complexities that you see. So just take your time in applying the epoxy and constantly check the base of where the handle meets the mug so that there's not pooling or that you don't have just big gobs of epoxy, because you will see it when the epoxy cures, and it's gonna take away from that nice distinction of the handle. For these coats of epoxy, I used about 20 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy, and this was really done. This cup needed 2 final layers over all of the vinyl that we did and the decal, and I am so happy with how this cup turned out. I'm going to have the hardest time parting with this mug because it's just absolutely perfect to enjoy all those warm beverages during the winter season. As always, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you like this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see future videos. You can also ring the bell so you are notified of all future cup making goodies. Thank you again. I love you guys. Bye.